Fine, perfect. No problem, perfect. No. Okay. So today we're going to discuss the concept called marufia. We have a concept here in America called headhunters. Well, now we're going to talk about the inverse, I guess, client hunters. When you run after, chase after other people's clients, customers, all the different types of cases. We're going to share with you a number. Then we'll start off with a number of practical cases from the non-commercial world, and then we'll go into the commercial world, different things. I'm sure you better hear from Rabbi Gottesman. But I'm going to share with you actually true stories. These are true stories that happened. One story, a cute story that happened many years ago. There's somebody here in Lakewood who sells chocolates and the like. We'll call it Nash or that thing. And he was in a supermarket and he saw his good friend who happens to be a Rav. He saw his good friend who was in the aisle of the supermarket looking and perusing different types of chocolates that he's going to buy for, I guess, his children, his o'clock, whatever. So this owner of a chocolate store went over to him and said, Rav, can I ask you a shaila? Am I allowed to tell you that I sell these chocolates for a lot cheaper? That was the shaila. He wanted to know if you could tell him that. Basically, that was his way. He has some sense of humor. That was his way to try to lure him and get him to come to his own store and leave the supermarket. So that's a shaila. Was he allowed to do that? Here you have a customer in the supermarket about to purchase chocolate, and now he's taking him out of that and bringing him to his own store. Another shaila, similar shaila. We're going to have a similar common denominator, all these shailas, but a similar shaila is you have a case where you have here in BMG, Baruch Hashem, it's the capital of Bochrim, Shidduchim, people in Shidduchim age. So how do they go out on a date? They need a car. How do they have a car? Many of the Bochrim don't have a car. So they go and rent a car. And it's every day, literally, there are hundreds of Bochrim renting cars every single day. That's how we keep all the different rental car companies open. So Bacha has a date. Normally the date is at night. So you need the car really. First you need the car maybe at 6 o'clock. You pick up the girl and then you go out. Fine. This boy had an afternoon date, an early afternoon date, like a 12 o'clock date, a 1 o'clock date. Ben Estarm, even earlier than Ben Estarm, right? And who's going to be done, finished by 6 o'clock for sure. So he figured, and the way you rent a car, you have to rent it at least for 1 day at a time. So he figured, why should I have to rent a car for a whole day myself? What I'll do is I'll stand outside the rental store. He stands in the parking lot right there. Every 5 minutes will be another bucker coming to rent a car. Then when the bucker comes and say, Yankel, Shalom Aleichem, you have a date tonight? Yeah, great. What time the date starts? 6:30. Great, no problem. Let's go together, B'Shutvis, and we'll rent a car, B'Shutvis. I'll take half. You'll take half, and like this, we're good to go. Put out both our names as drivers, and we're good to go. Was he allowed to do that? Because really, he needs a car, and Yankov needs a car. Had he not stepped in and interfered, Yankov would have rented his own car, and he would have had to rent his own car. So there would have been 2 cars rented. Now they partnered up, and they only rented 1 car. So that's a shaila. Was he allowed to do it? Basically, he parked himself right by the place. The place attracted all the Bochrim to come rent by them. That's why he stood there. And he stood right there. Bishlam, if he's in the coffee room of yeshiva and he puts up a sign or he speaks around, he says, anyone want to be mishtatef with me? That's one thing. But he is right by the store, right by the rental agency, and he's basically taking the customer that's about to rent from the agency, and really what he's doing, he's usurping, he's taking it for himself. He's saying, instead of renting from the agency, rent with me. I'll rent from the agency and you'll share my rental. So basically he took away a client from the agency, not the shaila. Sorry? Taking away the client either way. Right, but doesn't Yeshiva courtroom, since there's like literally 10 different places you could rent from, I could be the 11th. I'm also a rental company. I have a car today, and I'm also, just like I could open up a store, I'm a Ben here, let's say, I could open up a store. So I'm going to open up another rental company for 1 car for 1 day. That's what I'm also part of the mix. And you saw in the Gemara that we passed on that you're allowed to open up another store. Here the shaila is, I'm not just opening up a store and creating more competition. I'm actually going against taking away a customer that was about to purchase something from this place. Because he was about there. Yaakov came to the store, came to this actually.
Is the Rav saying he went into the other guy's store?
Basically, he parked himself at the door, at the front door of the store, and he took away a client. So here it's a little bit different. He's taking a client out of his store, just like the chocolate. He's taking a client out of the store. Let me share with you a third case, which is Ma'asim B'chol Yom. I probably still exists today, but when I was in Eretz Yisrael going back 35 years ago, that was Ma'asim B'chol Yom. Is that there was in Eretz Yisrael, there's an Egged bus company. That's the government bus company. And then what we call is tenders. Tenders are private individuals who have vans, and they go on certain routes that everyone knows. Let's say to go to Mir or go to Brisk. They take the big yeshivas. They have hundreds, if not thousands of Yingalite, and they take the standard route, as is Torah, whatever it is. You go through, you can go from Arzia is closer, but whatever it is, you take the standard route, and they just pick up people along the way. When they're full, then they go straight to the yeshiva. And that's how they go. So where are they going to find Yungalite? Where the Yungalite waiting? Well, the Yungalite are waiting by the bus stops. So here you have Yungalite waiting at Egged's bus stop, and they know it comes every 8 minutes, the bus. So it comes on the hour, then 8 after the hour, 16 after the hour. So the tender comes 2 minutes to the hour, 6 minutes after the hour, just like 2 minutes before the bus comes, and picks up the people at the bus stop and then travels to yeshiva. Was he allowed to do that or not? Basically, he had people waiting for Egged, and now he's taking those people away for himself. Was he allowed to do that? Those are 3 shilas. All these shilas are true stories, and they all have one common denominator. You're taking a customer away from somebody who the customer was already at the other seller. He was already at the other place, and you're taking him away. That's one set of shilas. I want to share with you another type of set of shilas, and that is when you have steady customers and you're interfering with steady customers. You could have so many different types of steady customers. We're going to share with you a couple, and means that you could go take it, you could take it further from there. You have somebody who's an accountant. Different companies, they need accountants, or even private individuals need accountants. And I always use this accountant. I'm always using Reuven as my accountant. I've been using him for years already. It's my accountant. Comes along another accountant, just opened up shop. He wants to have business where he's going to get customers. He sees me in shul, comes over to me and says, you know what? I just opened up a practice. Would you mind using me as your accountant? So what did he just do? Had he not come to me, I would continue using Reuven. Putting me in now on the spot. I have to think about it if I want to use an amateur accountant. But fine, but he just approached me. Had he not approached me, I would have continued to use Reuven. Reuven was my steady accountant for years. So what he just did is he stepped on Reuven. He encroached upon Reuven's relationship that he has with me. That's a marufia. Marufia is when I have a relationship with somebody, a steady relationship, doing business with him or providing a service, and comes along someone else and tries to take a customer or client away. You could have nursing home industry. Nursing home industry, they need supplies, various types of supplies. They need paper goods. They need food. Let's take the food. So you could have a supplier. There are many from companies who supply foods for nursing homes. It's an explosive industry right now in the last 10 years. The nursing home industry and all the accessories that are supplying to the nursing homes. So you always use ABC nursing home food supplier. That's all you always use. You've been using him for years. And every week they deliver, they know how much you need, and every week they deliver. Comes along a new guy on the block. He also wants to supply food for nursing homes. He calls me up and he says, could you use me instead? So he basically just stepped on that other supplier. That other supplier had a relationship with me. Now, I never committed to the supplier that I'm married to him forever. In theory, I could change whenever I want. I could stop whenever I want. But realistically, one can assume that I will continue using him. I've been using him for so long. Most likely, I will continue using Vices. I appreciate his service. I like his prices. He delivers fresh stuff. I'm happy with him. So had this next person not interfered, I would have continued using him. That's a relationship that I had, and he's encroaching upon that relationship.
What happens? That relationship was in fact codified contractually, and the contract is coming up. Obviously, if the contract there, then your mom should be guzzled.
Right, I mean, middle of contract, then it's manager. Even
Right.
if it's not a middle of the contract, but if it's
Let's say there
typically,
was the contract is going up, and now the
no
question
problem.
is,
But let's say the contract is for 1 year. It's rather not like that, but let's just say we'll have some type of industry. They have a contract for 1 year. Let's say we'll talk about, you know what, we'll talk about another case, which you have the case. Let's say insurance. So let's say you have a broker for commercial insurance or home insurance, rental insurance, whatever it might be. So you have insurance on your home. You always use the same broker. Every year it renews. I've been renewing with the same broker for 5 years now, year after year. It's right. It's only contract for 1 year, but it renews and it renews. And every time I use the same guy again, I might use different service providers. I mean, I might use different companies. So the last year I used Travelers, and this year I might use Plymouth, and the next year I might use something else. But I always use the same broker to broker me. Each year I tell him, get me the best price, and he gives me the best price. But I always use the same broker. I've been doing that year after year and renews. Now it's time for renewal. And now someone else comes and approaches me and says, I should use him as a broker. So he just stepped into a relationship. He stepped into a relationship that was already existing. That's a case of marufim.
You're assuming that this relationship is very strong, but vice versa, it's not, because he's willing to change over to somebody else.
Yeah, but it's strong enough. That vice toys year after year I am using it. So it's strong enough. Right now. Right, correct. I did not go looking. I'm happy, satisfied with him. It's not. I didn't take the initiative to go somewhere else. Someone else approached me, started the ball rolling. And of course, I'm not going to jump unless he really sweet talks me and he really gives me such a great, lucrative offer. Otherwise, you're right. I'm not leaving my first. But if he tries to lure me, he's gonna a lost leader. He's going to try to cut and make that first year and create a relationship. Then hopefully it will grow. So what? Did we find that as a heter by HaRav בחררה? Let's say you have a deal, a commitment to buy a house by somebody.
The Rav can repeat the question so the Zoom element can hear the question.
Okay.
If it's relevant.
You want to know, he wants to know what happens if the second person is offering a better price and the client was unaware that he could get it for a better price. So he's really doing a great favor for the client. But do we find that as a heter anywhere? There's a Fush of Mordechai. Otherwise, and Mordechai says that even if you give more money, that's not a heter. It means if I go, let's talk a practical matter. I contract to buy your house for $500,000. Somebody else would love your house and they're willing to pay for whatever reason $575,000. And they go over to you and they say they're willing to give you $575,000. Great. They're doing a gewaldig getayv. You have extra $75,000. You can learn in color for another year. Gewaldig. Gewaldig getayv. Is that a heter? No. Mordechai says, forget. It's awesome. So the question is, in these cases where there were no explicit upmark, there was no explicit contract to continue using you, but it's implicit. If I've been using you for the last few years, we know that we're going to continue. It's pashtus. We can assume that this is going to continue further. Good. Yeah, you have to know if we find that by
I'm going to just repeat the question. Does it apply to tzedakah too? A person has a fixed amount of money that he gives to tzedakah. Can another meiser come and say, I want to take away from that money in a way that it's not being replaced?
Yeah, most of the time it's not like a fixed amount, and most of the time you're not on any one koilom. So you usually give various tzedakahs, and when someone else coming in, he's not stepping on any one individual. But you tell me, let's say you have a certain upmach, you have
meiser. What's that? You have meiser.
Yeah, it's true, but you don't give to one person. But let's say you'll have a certain amount allotted to do a yisachah zvulun, for example. And you have a certain Talmud Chacham, and now another Talmud Chacham wants to tell you, you know what? I'm a bigger Talmud Chacham, so do me instead. And instead of going for him, let's make the Yisachah with me. So then he's encroaching upon somebody else. Then that we could have an issue. And we have to discuss. We're going to have to break apart marufia to show you the levels in marufia. On the surface, you don't really see it, but you go through the Rishonim. The Goyin here is phenomenal, and that's basically what we're going to share with the Olam, is to give you the Goyin's pshat in Marufia, which is really the Rishonim's pshat in Marufia, bring you back to the Sugyas, bring you back to the Rishonim, and we'll develop it, and Mit Hashem, give me like a half hour, and Mit Hashem, hopefully everything will be clear. Hopefully. Okay? So let's try to understand the sugya. Let's go back. I understand that the last 2 weeks, 1 week you had on בחררה, that's great, and then last week you had on YYK, which is great, and those are the two sugyas you need to know. So let's try to work. We're going to have to chaza a little bit to get you back into it, and then we're going to apply it halakha l'maisa and develop it. Let's get it. So on your map of Bakharara, you have somebody who's running after a charara, a biscuit. He's running after whatever it is. That's hefka, $100 bill that's on the floor. He eyes it, he spots it, he's running after it, and comes somebody else and swoops and picks it up. On your map of Bakharara, nikra rasha. There's a machloikis Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. How far do we take this Gemara? Rashi holds that even on a Dovashal Hefka, Nikra Rasha. No one has a right to come into it. Once a person spotted it, it's his, he's eyeing it. It's what we call Hashem Ina Liyada is the Yerushalmi. I don't know if it was discussed, but the Yerushalmi says it learns out from a pasuk according to Bnei Moshe's Prat Yerushalmi, Lamas Miriel Chesed, Yerishaka Yazoi, but somebody has Miras Mir Chesed, Kosh Baruch was Ina Liyada. He made it destined for this person to get it because he was mamti it for him. He was the one who spotted it first, and he's being mishtadel to get it. Someone else takes it away. Yerishak Yazov is considered a rasha. That's on your Bakharara, according to Rashi, even by Hefka, even though the second person cannot get it anywhere else. How many times do you find $100 bill on the floor? Not too often. Still, Nikar Rasha. That's Rashi Shita. Comes along Rabbeinu Tam and says, no Rashi, that's not Pshat in the Gemara. Pshat in the Gemara is not, we're not talking about David Shalefka. We're talking about somebody's trying to get a service and comes along someone else and takes it away. We're not talking about or Mekach or Schiris, but we're not talking about David Shalefka. Something that's Hefka is not a problem in Nikar Rasha. Why? Because you can't tell the second guy, go somewhere else. There is nowhere else to get it. It's a David Shalefka. There is nowhere else to get it. You can't replace it anywhere else. Mamela, the second guy has the right to come in. The reason why on the map of Karavin is considered a Rasha according to Rabbeinu Tam is because the first guy tells the second guy, why step on me? Go everywhere else in the world. Don't bother me. Hashem will give you panasa somewhere else. But if there's nowhere else to get it, if this is it, it's a hefka, you can't get it somewhere else, then Rabbeinu Tam holds that's not a Rasha. You have a right to go somewhere else. You have a right to go here since you can't go somewhere else. Since you can't get it anywhere else, you have a right to go here. So the machloikis Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. Rashi holds by hefka it's Nikar Rasha, and Rabbeinu Tam holds it's not Nikar Rasha. How do we pass in Rabbi Say? So the Shulchan Aruch brings down both days, and the Ramah paskins that the ik is like Rabbeinu Tam. The ik is like Rabbeinu Tam that a badav shal hefka is not considered a Rasha. We're passing Rabbeinu Tam. So how come the Shulchan Aruch brings down both days? If we're passing the ik like Rabbeinu Tam, why are we bringing down Rashi Shita for? So that we have a Shulchan Aruch HaRav and Rabbi Tzvi Pesach Frank, and we have Rabbi Moshe. They all say that the reason why the Shulchan Aruch brings down the other Shita is to tell you that a Baal Nefesh should be machmir, like Rashi. Even though Ikar Din is like Rabbeinu Tam, that by Hefka it's not a Rasha, but since it's a Rashi, she told that it is, a Baal Nefesh should be careful and be machmir like Rashi. So, ala halacha, we pass in its mutter. If you're a Baal Nefesh, then you should be machmir. How do you know if you're Baal Nefesh or not? I guess everyone has to make that own determination for himself. I guess it depends on what type of mezuzahs he buys and what type of esrogim he buys and everything else in life. And how many ovens he has in his kitchen.
It's harder to be machmer chayshemish, but than it is on ovens and bagels. It's hard.
Saying, is he makel to have only one oven, or is he more mach when he has a flechik oven and a mukuk oven, and now we even have a parav oven and we have a pesach oven? Like, how much is he machmer in his own lifestyle? That you have to know how much he be machmer. Everyone could be their own dying on that. But the halacha is it's mutter, just a Baal Nefesh is machmer. That's the backdrop of the sugya called marufya. We need that to understand the next sugya. And the next sugya is Yavi Siyara. Let's understand that sugya, and from here is where marufya develops. Here where it sprouts out from is the sugya called Yavi Siyara.
Let's put up the Gemara, please, Babasra.
So there's a Gemara Babasra Kaf Aleph from the base. Kaf Aleph from the base. Good? The Gemara Babasra Kaf Aleph from the base, we know has a machlokes. Are you allowed to open up a store in the vicinity of another store? There's one Rechaim, and now you want to open up another Rechaim next to it. Are you allowed to open up another Rechaim next to it? So it's a machlokes. Rav Huna asks, and Rav Huna Breder Yeshua matters, and we pass on like a Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua. It's even underlined, very nice, highlighted in orange. Great. So Rav Huna Breder Yeshua holds that it's mutter. We pass like it's mutter. You're allowed to open up another store next to an existing store. What happened to Bakara? Why does Rav Huna Breder Yeshua hold it's mutter? Who gives you a right to open up a store next to my store, near my store? I'm trying to get all the customers in this vicinity, and now you're coming and opening up another store. What are you doing? Teretz is, Vaistois, at least in the world of Rashi, Vaistois is that in order to have any map of Bakharara, you have to already have some type of a relationship. You have to have some type of commitment with this kaina. You have to have a deal. If you can't in contract, great. And you certainly have a meeting of the minds. I'm sure you learned 2 weeks ago about psikas damim. If you're dealing with someone, it's not considered animap b'charara until you have a meeting of the minds. You agree on a price. Cosman, you don't agree on a price, there's no animap b'charara. So you never have a price for tomorrow. Let's say today you have a supermarket and I want to open up another supermarket. The customers of tomorrow, you never had any contractual obligation with. They never entered into a contract to buy by you. They never committed on any product. So there's no Animap B'Karara yet. It's still in the Eilam Adimian. It's in the Eilam HaMachshava. It never reached the Eilam HaMaisa yet. You don't have any deal with them. There's no Animap B'Karara. And that's why we pass on Karfuna Brei to be sure that it's Mata. The Gemara wants to bring a raya. The Gemara wants to bring a raya to Rav Huna that it's really Asa. They ask Rav Huna Brei Yeshua, how could you tell me that you're allowed to open up another store? You see Alocha Machikin Mitzudas Hadag. If you have one Minadag, if I here and I put out my net to catch a fish, a big fish like Rashi, whatever it is, I have my eyes and I'm mamish, I test the fish. Who knows what, 100-pound tuna, and I'm trying to catch this fish. And now you want to put out a net next to my net and catch that very same fish. The halach is machikin metuda sadak min nadag. How far? Kamali ritis sadak. You have to go so far away that you're not going to take this fish away from me. Kamali ritis sadak. Kamali ritis sadak. Good. Let's say this. So you have a Gemara that has a kash on Rav Huna Brei Yeshua. How do you tell me you're allowed to open up a store next to another store? You see, you're now allowed to spread a net next to my net. What's going on? I say fact the Gemara. And for the Gemara, that's different. You know why Rav Huna Brei Yeshua would be made over there is because the Gemara says, Shani Dogim the Yavi Siyara. Dogim is different because Yavi Siyara. And it's a machlokes rishonim how to touch up this Gemara. And I'm going to have to bring you back into at least some of the basic shitas to be able to understand where we're headed with in terms of Marufya. But let's get the Gemara. The Gemara's kasha was that you see that you're not allowed to open up a net next to another net. So it's a kasha Rav Huna Brei Yeshua. How does Rav Huna Brei Yeshua say you're allowed to open up a store next to another store? And the Gemara says it's different. Kashani dogim the yavi siyara. So what's prat in this Gemara? What's prat in the Shakla V'Taya? The Gemara's Havamina was l'chor it should be mutta because there's no Animapa B'Charara yet, because there was never a commitment, there was never a full mahapech on the item yet. And what's the Gemara's teretz? The Gemara's teretz, at least in Rashi's world, the Gemara's teretz is simple. Shani dogim diyavi siyara. Since the first guy already had his eyes on this fish, and the fish was going to be caught in this net, he already did a shtadlis to get this fish. He was already mahapik on this fish. Then he has a right to catch this fish. You can't get this fish anywhere else. Who cares? Rashi holds his animapa b'karar even by hefka. So we're good to go. Rashi has a givaldik Gemara. It's a simple Gemara. Kasha was, how come it's also, it's not considered a hipuch yet? You weren't mahapich yet. You didn't do a full hipach yet. And the Gemara's teretz says, no, shani dogim diavik siara. So mamela, it's as if you were mahapich. Rashi says, noisnin ayim babatim lis noigim, depending on the gesa, loritz l'mak mishrosham bezainis. You put bait, the fish are going to come and get it. Hilka kivin shekes echuri v'nasam bezainis b'teik malay ritzasai. But tuachu shil kadan. He's confident that he's going to be able to capture this fish. This is Rashi Shita. So like Rashi, you don't have to have any Herculean shot in the Gemara. It's a very simple Gemara. The Gemara is that there was Havamina was there's no hipuk. The Gemara says, yes, I am a hapik. I'm betuach. I'm going to catch it. I did my shtadlis. I put out the net. I put out the bait. It's right next to the fish. He's going to come here. I'm good to go. I did my proper hipuk. You can't interfere. You have to stay away. Simple Gemara, like Rashi, because Rashi shows that even by Hefka, it's Nikra Rashi. Comes along Tosfos on the spot, learns the Gemara like Rashi, and asks the following question. Bishleimer like Rashi that holds Hefka is also by Anamabik. Gemara is great, no problem. But what are you going to do with Rabbeinu Tam? Rabbeinu Tam holds that by Hefka it's Mutta, and this is Hefka. What's going on? This is Hefka. This is mamish, a jackpot of a fish. I can't get this fish anywhere else. What's going on? Why does the Gemara hold this also? That's Tosfos' kasha on Rabbeinu Tam. How you, Rabbeinu Tam, are going to learn this Gemara? For this, Tosfos gives two terutzim. And it's very important, these two terutzim. One teretz is, we're going to make an akimta in the Gemara. And the akimta in the Gemara is that you can get a fish like this somewhere else. So even though this fish happens to be Hefka, but you don't have the heter of Hefka. What's the heter of Hefka? The heter of Hefka is, I cannot tell you to go somewhere else because it doesn't exist. It's not available somewhere else. That's what Rabbeinu Tam holds, that by Hefka there's no dinanim of Bakharara. But over here, you can get a Hefka dika fish somewhere else. You can get this fish somewhere else. So Mamela, you have no right to step on me. Go somewhere else. Let's pretend we're in a world that on every 10 feet is another $100 bill on the floor. Every 20 feet is $100 bill on the floor. And I'm looking at this $100 bill and you're trying to come into this one. I say, don't get this one, just take the next one. And that Rabbeinu Tam would be made is don't come here, go somewhere else. If it's available elsewhere, then you're supposed to go elsewhere. Don't step on me. So in the world of Rabbeinu Tam, even though it happens to be a mitzi, it's hefka, it's free, it's a fish, but if you can get it somewhere else, it doesn't have the heter of hefka. The heter of hefka is because you can't get somewhere else, but if you can go somewhere else, go somewhere else. So Mamela Tosfos says, we're going to make an akimta in the Gemara. We're going to talk about that you could get the exact same type of a fish somewhere else. You can get this fish out, this 100-pound bass, whatever it is, get it somewhere else. Don't come here, go somewhere else, and that's why it's awesome. So according to this pshat in Tosfos, the Gemara is not teaching you any real chidushim, because we already knew this from the Gemara and Kedushin. We already knew we have a cloud. If you can get it somewhere else, it's Nikra Rasha, it's Animat Karara. And if you can't get it somewhere else, it's going to be Mota. And the Gemara is making the Kimta, we're talking about where you can get it somewhere else. So Rashi pshat in the Gemara, that altogether Hefka is also, or the Tosfos pshat in the Gemara, that it can be gotten somewhere else, and therefore it goes under the regular Dinam HaRav and Nikra Rasha. There are no Kedushim really in the Gemara Bas. It's just repeating the lumdus, the same you say that we already had in Kedushin in the beginning of Oina. That's fine. But now comes along a second Teretz HaTosfos. And this Teretz HaTosfos changes the landscape of this sugya. Comes along Tosfos, the second Teretz, you learned it with Eilam? Comes along second Teretz HaTosfos, and Tosfos says, you're right. You know when Rabbeinu Tam holds, any map of Becharara, is mutter when it's a Davar Shel Hefka, because you can't get it somewhere else. That's just a regular type of situation when it's just like a personal situation. I'm trying to get something, you're trying to get something, fine, it's not commercial. But if it's in business, business is business. Business is something else. When it's talking about someone's livelihood, I live off of this. This is my business. I'm a fish catcher. This is my business. I'm dogging. This is my business. And now you're trying to encroach on my business, trying to take away my livelihood, trying to take away my fish that I need for my parnasa. Their Tosfos hold that even Rabbeinu Tam is moeded also, even though you could get it to somewhere else. That's a big chiddush coming out of this Gemara. I have a Gemara in Kedushin. I would have walked away from Gemara in Kedushin. As long as I can't get it somewhere else, I'm good to go. Come along, Tosfos and Mechadish. No, you should know. That's only if you're talking about, petty stuff, by chance you found something, whatever it's a charara. But if this is your livelihood, you're going into stepping on someone else's livelihood, that's also no matter what, even if you cannot get it somewhere else. For the second guy, it's also his livelihood. Tough. That doesn't give you a right, doesn't give you a heta. It's the first guy's livelihood, it's his You're now allowed to step on him no matter what, no matter how. It doesn't make a difference. Even though you can't get it somewhere else, you have no right to step on him. Big Chiddush comes out of Tosfos. So now, based on this lumdis, we have a klalia. Rashi holds that all animal Bakharara is also even Davar Shel Hefka. Tosfos Rabbeinu Tam holds by Hefka it's mutter, except when it comes to business. If it's your business, now it's going to be also. Good. If it's nasa bekak, that makes it worse. How do we pass? In which teretz of Tosfos we pass? And we know we pass like Rabbeinu Tam like a Rashi. But in Tosfos itself, how do we pass? Do we pass like the first Teretz HaTaisis, that really there's no Chedushim in the Gemara? Or do we pass like the second Teretz HaTaisis, that because it's Umnasa Bekach, that makes it much worse? The Gedolei HaKadmonim, the Gedolei HaPoiskim, the Marik, the Marshal, the Masas Binyamin, and many others from the Kadmonim passing that the Iker is like the second Teretz HaTaisis. The Iker is that Rabbeinu Tam is Moida when it comes to Umnasa Bekach, it's going to be Asa. So now this figure comes to light. This is mamish very nugeya, very practical, very nugeya, that we should know if it's coming to umnis, we have a whole different set of rules. Regular animal bakara by hefkes mutter. When it comes to umnis, nope, then it's going to be asa. Then even Rabbeinu Tam agrees to Rashi that animal bakara even by hefkes is going to be asa. Good, we're good. Rabbi side, we have that. Machlokes, we pass in according to the Gdei Kadmonim, we pass in like the second Teretz HaTaisis that umnasa bekach is worse. Based on this Gemara, by Yavi Siara, that the fish is by the net and it's like a hippoch, so comes along many of the Paiskim, the Archashuchin in Reish Chav Chesef Yedal, I don't know if it's on the Marmakaimis, there's a Kesef HaKochin, the Buchacha in Kufayin Hesef Mem. They want a taina. Therefore, if you have a customer in a store, if the customer is in a store, he's about to buy, then that's going to be asur. That's considered like you already have a hippoch, and you now let her pull him out of the store. Let's go back to our story about the chocolate. Goes over to the Rav and he asks him, can I tell you that I sell these chocolates for cheaper? And he says, no, you're now allowed to tell me that because I'm already in the store. So it's like Yavi Siara. It's a proper hippoch that was made. And Memela, like Rashi, is going to be asa because Animal Bakara is asa no matter what, even by Yafka. And even if you go like Rabbeinu Tam, it's going to be asa because it's umnasa bakach. We're talking about a business. I'm in somebody's store. So you would not be allowed to take him out of the chocolate store, the supermarket. You would not be allowed to stand by the rental agency and try to pair up with another bacha renting a car, because I just took that bacha away from the store. He was right by the store. He went to the store to rent, and now I'm intercepting and taking him away. So you're now allowed to do that. And by the tender in there, by the Egged bus stops, it's going to be the same problem. These guys are waiting by the bus stop to be picked up from Egged, and now comes the tender, picks him up. Same problem. He's picking up somebody who's already, so to speak, in the store. He's by the Hachanah. He's by this bus stop, about to go onto an Egged bus. You're pulling him out of the shop. That's going to be asa. And Isaiah passing the Paiskim. That's going to be asa. That's like Yavi Siara. You're in the store. Sorry? So what? How does the hit for free help? Are you allowed to intercept with somebody if you're doing it for free? Are you allowed to do that? Does that make it better? I don't know. So there's a truth. Rav Moshe seems to say not. Rav Moshe had a tshuva. I don't know if the Olam saw it. You saw it with the communist, the Rav who's a communist.
With the shul?
Yeah.
Of course we said that. Yeah.
Okay. So what that they had tainas in the Rav. The Rav used to call them communistin, and that's how he gave Musa, and they were tainas. So they wanted to open another shul.
Imagine the Rav today like that.
Yeah, the Rav.
Makal Olam.
Yeah, and he wanted to open another shul, and it's even hefka. And Moshe said that's not it's for free. They're offering services for free. And Moshe says, you're not allowed to do it. Okay, we could talk about the Moshe at length, not for today, Rabbi side. But look, we don't have that as a heter. If you're at home and you're schmoozing with someone saying, I'm going to yeshiva anyway tomorrow, I'll take you. That's one thing. But if he's already by the stop, he's already, so to speak, locked in. There was already hippoch done on him. He's already seized, he's on the radar screen of that other seller of the Egged bus company, then you're now allowed to pull him out of that area. Okay. So if they came to the bus stop not to be picked up from Egged, but to be picked up from some good Samaritan or to be picked up from a tender, then we could discuss it. We could discuss that, how it evolved. But let's just look, when it started, they went and they took people from the Egged stops to take them out of the stop and bring them on to their own tender. All right. Now, sorry?
He wants to know if the bus stop is a chazaka for the bus company.
I don't know if the people now, I mean, they have a right from the city to park, that station, that, overhang over there, but I don't know if you could stay right there too. I mean, what's the problem? If, let's say you went to Aldas not to go into the bus, you went to Aldas to go onto the tender, that wouldn't be a problem. All right, now let's talk about focusing more on Marufia. And Rabbi Gaddis wants to know what's the Lashon Marufia, what Aramaic word is this Marufia? And the answer is it's not Aramaic at all, and it's actually Machlokes, which language this comes from.
Wow.
According to Chuvas Chavis Yor, it comes, right, the Chuvas Chavis Yor is brought down in Siman Mem Beis. It comes from a Lashon, it's Hebrew actually, Lashon HaKodesh. It comes from Yarif Kamota Lichi Ya'arois. Kosh Baruch Hu sends down trickles of motor coming into that's unique, that represents livelihood. Kosh Baruch Hu sends down shefa into the world, droplets of water rain into the world. So Marufia means when you have a steady unique, this customer is giving you steady business, your livelihood is coming from that customer.
What's the site?
What's the Marmalkum?
The site that the Rebbe said. It's the Chavis Yor?
Yeah, Chavis Yor. Chuvas Chavis Yor Siman Mem Beis. So he learns it's a Hebrew word, Lashon HaKodesh. Yarfu Tal, Yarfu Kamat Lichi, there are many Lashonis like that. It's Yarif, that's Marufia. However, the Chuvas 3-day Eish, and Chelik Aleph Kuf Lamed Zayin, he says it's not a Hebrew word, but it's actually an Arabic word. And he says, anyone who knows Arabic, even today, they still have that word in their language today. I cannot pronounce it because I'm sure it doesn't sound like Marufia. It probably sounds like Marufia, something like that. But in that word of Marufia, Marufia means some steady customer, a steady client. In Arabic, it's called a Marufia. Memela, that's where the language Marufia comes from. So now let's deal with...
The Rajba does not use that. It does not use that phrase. The Chuvas Rajba does not use that phrase.
Correct.
It was an Arabic phrase. You think that it should be there.
Arab, yeah, or maybe it was before the Arabic came up with that word. I can't tell you. But the Arzaru had that word. Good. So fine. So that's either way, it means having a steady client, a steady customer that's sending you livelihood. I always use him as a broker. I always use him as a supplier. That's considered Marufia. He's steady. A steady customer, a steady client, a steady good, a supply has a steady nursing home that always buys by them. That's considered a Marufia. How do we paskin a Marufia? These type of cases, we have a steady customer, that also goes on בחררה, and if it does, so what's the variables that play itself out? How are we going to play this out? So let me share with you an Or Zarua. The Or Zarua brings it out very nicely. Very on our level, very clearly. The Or Zarua says like this. He says, the Or Zarua is in Bab Matzi, Yud Amud Aleph. I don't know if you have it.
We have it. Could you put it up, please? Good. Continue on.
Good. The Or Zarua goes like the first teretz of Taisis. That, remember, we had two teretzim in Taisis. First teretz was that we're talking about where the dog could be found somewhere else. I mean, it doesn't have a din like Hefker. That's how the Or Zarua goes. And then we have the second teretz that Umnosa Bekach makes it worse. Okay, fine. But the Or Zarua goes with the first teretz Taisis that the variable that makes it or not is whether you can get somewhere else. What was his case? His case was, unfortunately, in the olden days, much of the Yiddish Parnasa was done in stuff that the Goyim forced them to go into industries that are not pleasant. So they forced them to go into the industries of taverns and forced them to go into the industry of lending. It was a bad business because all the malvas, the lenders got a bad names and usury, and they forced the Yidden to be perceived and portrayed in a bad light. So we're talking about such an industry called lending, and Ruvain lent a guy money, and this guy always borrows by Ruvain. Every time he needs money, he borrows by Ruvain. Comes along Shimon, and also, Gamani, I also want to be a lender. I see this guy is a good borrower, he borrows often. I approach the guy and do me a favor, lend from me instead of by Ruvain. Is that mutter or not? He never committed to borrow by Ruvain forever. He just, the last 10 times, whatever, 5 times, he borrowed by Ruvain. He committed forever? No, it was just ongoing. That's how he did it. So that was the shaila, is that permissible or not? So the Or Zarua takes issue with this and says that it's going to be asa. Someone has a goy ma'aruf yishaloi, sherogel tad delubas mimenu, is going to be an asa for another yid to come in and lend that guy money. And why, Dr. Or Zarua? The reason why it's asa, because in his mitzias, you could find another guy to lend money to. Since you could find another guy to lend money to, so therefore, it's not like Hefka. We pass like Rabbeinu Tam. The only Mavakar is also unless it's Hefka. But if I could get it somewhere else, then the second guy is now an encroach on the first person. Zokta Arzaru, the Mitzias is that you could find another guy to borrow money from you. But merely you have no right to take the first guy's guy. The first guy has a relationship with this guy. He always borrows from him. So then the second guy is now allowed to lend to that guy. That's what the Arzaru says. However, then he quotes, Matsasi, I found that they say over in the name of Rabbeinu Tam that it's mutter. That because Rabbeinu Tam holds that only בחררה b'mokum hefket's mutter, so too by my roof it's going to be mutter. It's mutter, and vice versa. The Mitzias was, I guess in Rabbeinu Tam's instance, the Mitzias was that you can't find another guy to lend money to. So he says that he found b'shem Rabbeinu Tam that it's going to be mutter. Now he has trouble with it because he says the Mitzias is not like that. The Mitzias is you could find another guy, so then it should be us even with Rabbeinu Tam. Good, but vice versa, he found somebody b'shem Rabbeinu Tam that holds it's going to be mutter. But he asks on that shita from a Gemara. And that's another Gemara, Nundalim Abeis, Nixi Akmarin Kafka. Did the Elam learn that Gemara?
We learned it, but it's worth seeing again.
Fine. I'm going to say over the Gemara, it's a Geshmaka Gemara.
It's in the first master, page 1 to 2.
Never in a million years could we be makam to such a Gemara. You see, that's Mamish Chazal, Gavaldik. Watch this case. Chazal, the case that Reuven went to purchase a property from a guy. So he paid the guy off, he gave the guy money. But he didn't yet write he didn't write a star yet. He didn't have a closing yet. He didn't have a deed transferred yet. But he gave the guy money. It's before deeds existed. But he didn't make a kinyan star. He has no raya that he actually paid the guy money and he purchased his land. No contract. All this was never such thing as a contract. There's no contract. All he did is he paid the guy money. Look, I mean, money's zikr. Money's
Yored, page 2.
So you bought the item, you bought the chayfetz from the guy, you bought the land from the guy. Just, you don't have a shtar. Now, if you don't have a shtar, you have no proof. You have no proof, you don't have smichas das. So Zok the Gemara like this. Watch this. The Gemara,
keep on going.
The Gemara has that the guy lost possession of the item because he already got paid. That's a kinyan kesef. So he gave up possession of the item. The yid, on the other hand, didn't mean to yet buy it because he's not confident he has it because he doesn't have a shtar yet. So it's now in the twilight zone. So who owns this piece of land? The Gemara says it's harein kemidba. Nitsei akam harein kemidba. It's like hefka. It becomes hefka. It belongs to nobody.
Okay,
then, if it's hefka, great. So someone else came along, Shimon came along, and made a kinyan on this piece of land. Chazaka, whatever, made a kinyan on this piece of land, closed the door, locked the door, and now the Gemara says Shimon owns the land. Watch this. Reuben paid for the land, just didn't get a shtar yet. The guy gave up possession of the land, and Shimon goes and swoops in and takes the karka, and it belongs to Shimon. Because the second Reuben paid, it becomes hefka. Now it's hefka, so Shimon says, Gvaldik, I found a piece of hefka, and he takes the land for himself. That's what the Gemara says, it belongs to Shimon. Right, mamish, eye-open of a Gemara. Comes along the Rashbam and says, yes, it's right, it's true. Of course, the Gemara is always right. As of course, Shimon owns it.
Page 1, page 1, I'm sorry.
Russia.
Page 1 of the...
How in the world did he just take this piece of land?
Page 1.
To get this land. He paid for this land. He did due diligence on this land. He's been running at this land for who knows how long. He actually paid for it. He consummated a kinyan with the seller. So much so that the seller lost possession of the land, and now Shimon comes in and takes it away. What's going on? Therefore, it's considered a Russia. It's only a mabak b'karara or ba'achev, and not lanikra Russia. So now the Rashbam sits very well if you go like Rashi. Rashi holds that even by hefka, you nikra Russia. So Dr. Rashbam, here too, it's going to be nikra Russia. Even if it's hefka, it's nikra Russia. So even though this item became hefka, it's going to be nikra Russia. So the Rashbam sits very well with Rashi. We could touch up the Rashbam, maybe like Rabbeinu Meir, and I don't want to go down that route yet. I just want to focus on my rifya. But there's just take it, like Rashi, it's very geshmak, why it's nikra Russia. But Rabbeinu Tam says no. From the Gemara, it doesn't sound like that. The Gemara sounds like it's even mutter. Nixi Akam and Kafka means that it's mutter for someone else to take. And not only that, for good measure, did the Ilim learn in Rabbeinu Tam Shita that Rabbeinu Tam holds that under Mapakar of Nikar Russia, if someone does take it, you actually metzin mimenu, you take it back from him, you claw it back. Did I go into that? I don't know. But if Rabbeinu Tam holds, we don't pass like that, elder Rabbeinu Tam, but then for sure he has a Mafusha Gemara. The Gemara says the shaman could keep it, the sheni is allowed to keep this land, and Rabbeinu Tam, the Shitasi holds that if it's Nikar Russia, you take it away from him. So clearly you see in the Gemara, it's not a Russia. So Zok Rabbeinu Tam, I see from this Gemara that when you have a hefka and someone else takes it, you're not a Russia. So now we have a Gavaldik of Makar for Shitas Rabbeinu Tam, if it's hefka, you're not a Russia. That's we have from this Gemara.
See, unifile page one, the Gemara Babas from the Dalaram base.
So now Rabbeinu Tam says, who didn't buy Marufia? The same thing. You have this borrower that you always lend to, but someone else has a right to lend this same guy money too. He cannot find this guy anywhere else, so he has a right to lend money to this guy and take him away from the first guy. Because you see from the Gemara, the second guy had a right to take the land away from the first guy. It's hefka. If it's hefka, everything's open, everything's free. I'm allowed to take it myself. I can't get a hefka karka anywhere else. I'm allowed to take this karka, even though you mishtadel on it, and not only that, you paid money for it. Even though you did gewaldige shtadlis on it, still, once it's hefka, I have a right to step in and take it.
I was going to show the Gemara on this. Now we found it finally on the screen. So
it's nindalid on my base. Rav Yudah Mashmul Nixay Akum Harein Kemidba Kalamakzik Ben Zacha Behen. Why? My time is talakle. The second he got the money from the first yid, he gave up possession of the property. Yisrael Kani, but the buyer was not kaina at the motish toliyadi. He didn't have smikazat until he gets a start. Hilko charein kin midbar. It's like hefka v'cholamakzik ben zakam, and anyone who wants to take it is allowed to take it. So that's the Gemara. Good. So let's now apply it back to Marufia. Let's understand the lumdis. So basically, Rabbi say, the way the Rishonim understand Marufia is that whenever you have a steady relationship with a customer, it has the same gedorim, the same parameters of animata b'charara. It's considered you a mahapik with him. If I have a relationship with him, I used him the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, the assumption is I will continue, and I made a hippuk for the future as well. There's an implicit hippuk. I built up that relationship. I was nice. Come Yontif, I sent him a present. I sent him a nice card, a birthday card. I did everything to mamish warm this guy up to make sure that he's going to stay and keep his business by me. So if you have such a case, so then that was a hippuk for the future as well. And it's on your map of Bechorah. So you want to know if Marufia is mutter or not. So now we have to apply the variables on your map of Bechorah. If you could get it somewhere else, so don't step on me. Get a different client somewhere else. Then it's going to be Zichar Russia, that's on your map of Bakharara, or Bachem, and not like Nikar Russia. If you cannot find such a client somewhere else, you can't find such a ba'ara with someone else, you can't find such a fish somewhere else, then it's Hefka. So we have Rashi, who holds on your map of Bakharara, even by Hefka also. And then we have Rabbeinu Tam that says, no, by Hefka, like the first teretz of places is going to be Mata. So then it'll be machlokes. Rashi holds it would be also, and Rabbeinu Tam would hold it's mutter, because if I can't get this coin somewhere else, then it's hefka. And only my b'charora b'achev and not by hefka is mutter. What the Arzaru fails to mention is the second teretz of Taisis. And the second teretz of Taisis holds that even Rabbeinu Tam is moida when it comes to umnasa b'kach. So Marufia, by its very nature, usually is umnasa b'kach. That's his business. You have a steady relationship. You're providing that service, providing that food. You're a supplier, whatever it is. You're providing insurance. You're a broker. So if you in the world of the second teretz of Taisis, no matter what, it's going to be also. Even if you can't find it somewhere else, once you reach the level of umnasa b'kach, that makes it much worse, and it's going to be also l'kuli yama. So let's just make a sikum here, a summary. Basically is, we could have two reasons how we could asa Marufia. One is based on Metzias, and that is, if you could find it somewhere else, that's the case, then no matter what, you have to go somewhere else and don't step on my client. Don't pull away my client from me. And that's going to be asa. If you cannot get it somewhere else, then we have a halakhic discussion. Maybe it still be asa. Like Rashi is still going to be asa because no matter what, hefker is always asa. Like the first teretz of Taisis, if it's hefker, it's going to be mota. And like the second teretz of Taisis, since it's umnasai bekar, it's his livelihood, then all's off. If it's his livelihood, you don't tamper with someone else's livelihood. And even if you can't get it somewhere else, it's going to be also. So even if you cannot get this client somewhere else, there's going to be a machlokes rishonim. According to Rashi, it's also. According to the second teretz of Taisus, it's going to be also because Umnotza Bekach is worse. And according to the first teretz of Taisus, then it'll be mutter because hefka is mutter even by Umnotza Bekach. So basically, and we already passed like a Rabbeinu Tam, not like Rashi. Only Balnef should be makbul like Rashi. But Mikadim we pass the Rabbeinu Tam. So now everything is mamish totally dependent on, do we go like the first teretz of Taisus, do we go like second teretz of Taisus? First teretz of Taisus holds the hefka is mutter, so it'll be mutter. Second teretz of Taisus says, no, Umnotza Bekach, everything's also. So then it's going to be also. And I mentioned to you already, Rabbi said the Gedolei HaPoskim, the Gedolei HaKadmonim passing like the second teretz of Taisus, that Umnotza Bekach is worse. That's in the Gedolei HaKadmonim. How do we pass in Lamaisa? How does the Shulchan Aruch pass in Amar Rufya? So the Ramah,
Put up the Ramah, please.
Says double Lashonis, very cryptic Lashonis here. If you put it up, I could read it to you. The Ramah into Santa Lashonis.
You got the Ramah up on page
It's in Sif Hey. It's Kufnun Vav Sif Hey.
49, page 49.
I think it was up before.
Yeah, it's coming. Takes a second to scroll.
Very good. Adam sheyesh legoy marufya. Watch these double lushayness of the Ramah. Yesh mekoym shedonin she'asa lachem leir lechiyusay v'lasa k'magayahu. There are those places who had the minig. There are places in the world who rule that it's asa to take away someone's marufya. Then v'yesh mekoym she'ein donin, and there are those places who have the minig that they don't dam marufya and they allow people to take the customer away. So that's the Ramah should have ended there. Then the Ramah continues. Chazar says here, "V'yesh matir liYisrael acher leilik legoyahu lahavus loy v'lasak imoy," and there are those who allow you to take away this goyish buyer. You're in the lending business. You could take away this goyish buyer ulishchudei, and to bribe him, or make it sweet, ulafuki mine, and take him away from the first lender. And why? Uncharacteristic of the Ramah, he brings a raya from a Gemara. How many Ramahs do you know who actually bring the raya? He brings a raya because next day going him kafka. He's coming from the Gemara. Next day kafka, and you see Rabbeinu Tam relied on that Gemara that you see that if you can't get it somewhere else, you're allowed to take him away. And anyone's allowed to keep it. So you see in the Gemara that it's hefka, it's mutter. And then the Ramah makes a about face the yeshosim, but then there are those who are awesome. So watch what he just did. Yesh mekayim shedonin, that's also. Yesh mekayim shedonin, not donin, it's mutter. Then yesh matirim, v'yesh oisrim. So the Goyim says, don't get confused here, the Goyim. It's really not 4 shitas, it's really 2 shitas. They're all one and the same. The ones who are done and hold it's also, the ones who are not done and hold it's mutter. And what does it depend on? The variables I just mentioned to you, Rabbi Say. It depends on if you cannot get it anywhere else, so then it blibes like hefka. So then if you hold like the first teretz of Taisus, it's going to be mutter. If you hold like the second teretz of Taisus, it's going to be asa. And if a good measure, just to confuse you a little bit, I don't know if it was mentioned last week, the Chuvas HaRashba by Achayit. So if you remember, there's a Chuvas HaRashba also had a case of Marufya by Achayit, a tailor, and he sounds like he goes with another pshat in the Gemara of Yavi Siyara, like the Rabbeinu Yoina and the Ritva, but it comes to the same conclusion that if it's Yavi Siyara, it's mamish kibiyodidam. It's like in your hands already. That makes it worse. And he holds a Marufya. If you have a relationship with somebody, it's better than just having a contract with someone. It's mamish. Avada, you're going to continue with the guy. It's like command the motil yodidame. So it's mamish in your clutches, and Mamela, that makes it worse. So Bekitza, the Goyim says there's only really 2 sheets going on here, and it's the same 2 sheets that we just discussed. If you go like Rabbeinu Tam, the hefka is mutter, and this you can't get someone else to be mutter. If you hold it Rabbeinu Tam's moider buying then it's going to be awesome. That's the sikkim of the sugya, like the Ramah, like the Goyim. Very geschmack. Now,
we're going to need to take it to the cases. I assume you want to now paskin the shayla.
Right. Yeah, but I just want to give out the Ramah, give it a little better, perhaps a little more flavor in the Ramah. Why the Ramah is a double lashonis, mekaymis and danin and issa. If lulei divrei agor, at least I could explain it a bit up here. The girl is that, let's back up. Remember, we had in the Arzarua in Rabbeinu Tam, it seems that they had different minhagim. In the Arzaru's place, you could find another loiva. In Rabbeinu Tam's place, you were not able to find another loiva. Depends on where you live. The different places. It's not challenging that different places have different minhagim. Lavdafka, they argued in halacha. They were arguing in mitzias. If you could get it somewhere else, then lekuli it's asa. It's a spitz on your map of Bakharara Baka, the not lose Nikarasha. Then it's spitz going to be asa. Simple, it's asa. The only way to have a heta here is if you have a situation where you cannot get it somewhere else, then we could then hopefully invoke Rabbeinu Tam's heta called hefka. Second Teretz says, no, you still can't invoke that. It's still going to be asa because it's a nasabakah. But the way to be matter is only based on that Rabbeinu Tam. The first Teretz says that you cannot get it somewhere else, and when you can't get it somewhere else, by hefka it's mutter. So it depends on the makom. You live in a little darfel, a little city. There's not so much commerce going out on. You live, I don't know, in Timbuktu or whatever it is, and wherever it is. So not so much commerce. You're not going to find it somewhere else, and then you could invoke a heta Rabbeinu Tam, perhaps. But if you live in a big city, there are a lot of buyers out there, a lot of clients out there, a lot of nursing homes out there, a lot of barrows out there. So don't step on me. Go somewhere else, and then you don't have any heta. Then pashat animap bakar straight up animap bakar and nikarash. So the Ramah telling you first yesh mekoim mishadonin, yesh mekoim mishadonin. Pashas remind me yesh mekoim mishadonin because the makom was a larger place, so therefore you could find other clients. Yesh mekoim mishadonin because you couldn't find other clients, and they invoked the heta Rabbeinu Tam it's hefka, and therefore he says v'yesh martim. Why? Because of nixi akim and rein kafka, and then he says no v'yesh oisim. And that could be that even if you hold that you can't get it somewhere else, if that's the mitzvahs and these mekaymis, you could hold like the second teretz of toises that even if you can't get it somewhere else, umnasabakak makes it worse. So Rabbi Sai, at the end of the day, if you could find it somewhere else, it's going to be awesome. If you can't find it somewhere else, then it depends on the two terutzim of toises. The kadmoinim paskin like the second teretz of toises, that's worse. Umnasabakak is worse. However, the achroinim, the later achroinim, say the minig is to be makel. Interessant. So the later achroinim say the minig is like the first teretz of toises, and the first teretz holds that every umnasbekak doesn't make it worse. It has a regular din on bakharara, and if I cannot get it somewhere else, then it's going to be muta. So la'alacha pashtus we go with the minig pashtus. So then it'll be muta because we're going to invoke the first teretz ataisis Rabbeinu Tam that if I cannot get it somewhere else, it's going to be muta. But mind you, Rabbi Said, never forget. We still have Rashi to contend with. Rashi holds that even by Hefka, you still also, and where you have the Shulchan HaRav, and Rapi Pesach Frank, and Ramosh holds that even by Hefka, where it's Mutter, a Banefesh should be Machmir. So now let's apply to our cases. Let's go back to our cases, and we're going to end off over here, running out of time. Let's apply to our cases. We could go through, and basically you could apply the variables yourself. Let's talk about an accountant. An accountant wants, you have a use the same accountant for years. And usually in the accounting industry, they have the same clients every year. They just renew it. They send you a reminder, coming up the deadline, please send me information. And that's how it goes. Comes along another accountant and wants to take you away from the first accountant. 1 second. I'm the only fish in the sea. I'm the only person who needs to pay taxes. Hundreds of thousands of people have to pay taxes. Millions of people in America have to pay taxes. Don't take me. Go somewhere else. Go somewhere else. And if you can get it by somewhere else, then it's not hefka, and the lekuliyam is going to be yasam. So then it's going to be yasam. But what happens if you have a case, for example, like insurance, brokerage of insurance, or mortgages? You have a mortgage broker. These mortgage brokers, it's a scalable business. They're not busy with the paperwork. They have secretaries, and if they're bigger, they have 2 secretaries, and if they're very big, they have partners and other secretaries. Basically, they spend time with you just to give you the basics, and then they win you over, and then they go to the next client.
It's a one-time event often. You
right.
buy one
so
house,
if it's a scalable business, and they could keep on having more and more clients, so then one could argue, watch this, Rabbi Isai, what are you telling me that I should go somewhere else and get a different client? You're right. I want that client and this client. I want both. I want the thousands of clients. I want millions of clients. I could provide mortgages for every citizen in America. It's a scalable business. It doesn't take much of my time. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get the idea. I could keep on piling up more. It's not like I have to manage and it takes me 2 hours and crunch time. I only have, let's just say, 300 hours to work. So I could really only do 150 returns. So I have a limit to it. Here, it's a scalable business. I could do, let's say supplies.
It's called leveraging fixed costs.
Right. So let's say supplies to nursing homes. I could supply food to every single nursing home in America. No problem. I drop ship and it's no problem. You'll get it. I call up whatever the manufacturer is. Now send 20 cases of mayonnaise to this home and that home. Send it to 1,000 homes, 20,000 homes. What's the problem? It's a scalable business. So if that's the case, what are you telling me? Go somewhere else. You're right. I am going somewhere else, but I'm coming to you too. I'm going everywhere. I'm trying to get as much as I can because I have no limit. So if I have no limit, one could argue, then this is, like Hefker. What do you tell me to go somewhere else? And therefore it should be Asa. I can't get you somewhere else. I'm getting everyone else also. I have the other 20 million Americans, but I need you also. I need 20 million plus one. I need you also. And you can't tell me to go somewhere else. I can't get you somewhere else because everywhere else I've already got. There's no other American that lives anymore, exists, that is not controlled by me. I already sell to them. I need you too. I want the very last American. So now what are you going to do? So you can't tell me to go somewhere else. So then now goes into the Sigi Rabbeinu Tam. If you hold like the first Teretz HaToises, that Hefko is mutter, even by Marufya, then it's going to be mutter. If you hold like the second Teretz HaToises that Nasu Bekach is worse, then it's going to be Asa. But remember, Rabbi Isa, even like the first Teretz HaToises that's mutter, if you're Baal Nefesh, if you're thinking about getting Shlishi on Shabbos, you have your eyes on an Aliyah on Shabbos, you want you to mechabed you to Shadam for the Yomid, because you're Chafesh of a mensch, then you have to be Machma like Rashi. Means if you're you don't care, everyone, can step on you, Beseda. But if you hold that you have some COVID, then you're Baal Nefesh, then you're supposed to be Machma like Rashi. And that's what the Shulchan Aruch brings down. Shulchan Aruch says that even the ones who hold its mutter, still a Baal Nefesh should be Machmir like Rashi, because the whole het of Maruf, you can only be in such a situation where you cannot get it somewhere else, and we're relying on Rabbeinu Tam's heta that by hef gets mutter because I can't get it somewhere else. But Rashi holds even by hef gets awesome. So then you have to be Machmir like Rashi. So the Shulchan Aruch passes that a Baal Nefesh, no matter what, is supposed to be Machmir. So the minig is to be Mekel. I guess the minig is you don't have Baal Nefesh. The minig is to be Mekel when you cannot get this client somewhere else. The minig is to be Mekel because we go like Rabbeinu Tam. But now we have Rashi to begin with. If you're Baal Nefesh, you should be Machmir. Just want to fearize, we're at the end of the time. Just want to fearize. I just want to give you just a parameter to this halacha. Marufya, in order to have Marufya, it has to be a steady customer. Steady means not a one-time customer. Because he used you once, doesn't make you have a steady relationship. The Chavis Yor says steady means at least 3 times. You have like a chazaka. There's an ongoing relationship. We could assume it's going to continue. If you'll have an industry, which might be rare, but if you'll have an industry that 3 times also doesn't dictate a relationship for the future, because every